Welcome back to the Exposure History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like, so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Egypt, 1867. Desert sands, ancient ruins, European tourists posing with local guides, traditional robes meet Victorian dresses, a surreal moment of culture clash and curiosity. L.A., 1949. A drive-through for bread and soda. Cars rolled up and no one stepped out. A woman reaches from the back seat, grabbing snacks on the go. Fast food? It started like this. Pitt County, North Carolina, 1949. A mother poses with 6 kids, a tenant farmer's wife, facing harsh times. Post-Great Depression, families like hers fought to survive frills. Just grit. That little girl? This photograph shows Frida Kahlo at age 5 in 1912. Her gaze is unnervingly direct, as if she already sensed the pain ahead. The image was preserved at the Frida Kahlo Museum, a glimpse into a childhood already marked by illness. At 18, a trolley accident drove a metal rod through her body. She survived, barely, and began painting during her recovery. The exhibition Frida Kahlo, her photos, reveals her world, friends, lovers, revolutionaries, and her home, Casa Azul. She hid her damaged body beneath vivid dresses and fierce self-portraits. Frida never bore children, but she gave birth to something enduring, a legacy carved from suffering. 1917. Brooklyn, New York. In this quiet photo, a round-faced man stares into the lens, stiff collar, wary eyes. Long before the bloodshed and bootlegging, Al Capone was just Alphonse, the fat boy from Brooklyn. Born to Neapolitan immigrants, he grew up at 38 Garfield Place, in a rough corner of South Brooklyn. Expelled for hitting a teacher, he soon outgrew the neighborhood. He married nearby, but Brooklyn couldn't contain him. Capone left for Chicago, where he built an empire of crime and fear. When he died in 1947, ravaged by disease, his name was already etched into America's most enduring criminal legend. Ever seen decorated skeletons chilling in Rome? In this chilling photo, skeletons in Franciscan robes stand silently beneath arches of skulls and chandeliers made of vertebrae. This is the crypt of the Capuchin friars in Rome, a macabre monument built from the bones of 4,000 monks who died between 1500 and 1800. Each chapel is a shrine to death itself. Skulls, femurs, ribs arranged in patterns of sacred beauty. Above the entrance, a final warning. What you are, we were. What we are, you will be. In this place, death is not hidden. It is art. It is memory. It is a message carved in bone. Halloween in the 1920s hit differently. In this faded Halloween photo, some people stare out from behind a warped mask, the eyes hollow, the smile twisted. It wasn't meant to frighten. In the 1920s and 30s, papier-mâché and crude fabric were the best parents could manage. But time turned these costumes into nightmares. Across America and on the streets of Shreveport, kids once roamed in oversized pantomime heads and furry masks that look unsettling today. They weren't monsters. Not then. Just children in makeshift disguises, chasing candy under porch lights. Now they haunt our photo albums like ghosts from Halloween's long gone. Vietnam, 1967. In this eerie photo from 1967, a U.S. soldier in Vietnam poses with what looks like a monstrous jungle centipede, its body stretched long, antennae reaching, a moment frozen in time. At first glance, it seems impossibly large, nearly 2 feet. But look closer, it's likely a trick of perspective. The centipede dangles from a fishing line, closer to the lens, creating an illusion. Its real size? Closer to 10 inches. Still, for soldiers trudging through the dense, humid jungles of Vietnam, even that was enough. War wasn't just bullets and bombs. Sometimes it was what crawled beneath your boots. March 1921. Ukrainian kids starving during the Great Famine. While Moscow rushed grain to Russia's Volga region, Ukraine was left to wither. Over 1,000 trains carried Ukrainian harvests north, ordered by Lenin himself, as peasants in fertile black soil villages collapsed from hunger. Relief came late when the dying had already filled ditches. No mass graves, no counts, just silence and dust. Some historians call it genocide, others call it neglect. But for Ukraine, it was erased by starvation. Radiation as medicine? Yep, that happened. This photo shows his hair thinning, scalp blistered, a silent witness to a forgotten chapter in medical history. In the 1920s, before antifungals, ringworm was a mark of shame. Radiotherapy, then still in its experimental prime, was seen as a miracle cure. Children were lined up for X-rays on the scalp, unaware of the long-term cost. Decades later, some developed skin cancers, like the basal cell carcinoma described by Dr. Harold Burroughs in 1928. World War I, 1917. A green mist crept over the trenches. "Gas!" came the cry. Panic erupted as soldiers scrambled for masks or soaked rags, some using urine-soaked clothes to survive. In 1915 at Ypres, chlorine gas turned war into a nightmare, blinding and suffocating men where they stood. It wasn't just deadly, it was terrifying. Later at Loos, British gas blew back on their own troops, causing chaos and death. Gas claimed 90,000 lives and wounded over 1 million, leaving behind not just scars, but lasting fear. The silent hiss of poison became one of World War I's most haunting horrors. Harvey Milk in campaign mode, San Francisco. This is a forgotten leaf of history. Harvey Milk, 1930 to 1978, was the first openly gay man elected to public office in California, serving on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1978. Born in New York, he served in the Navy and later moved to San Francisco, where he became a prominent gay rights activist. Known as the mayor of Castro Street, Milk fought for LGBTQ+ equality and sponsored a groundbreaking law banning discrimination based on sexual orientation. His charisma and courage made him a local icon. Tragically, Milk and Mayor George Moscone were assassinated on November 27, 1978, by ex-supervisor Dan White. In 2009, Milk was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Irma Grease, just 22. This photograph, taken on August 8, 1945, shows Irma Grese and Josef Kramer, both former guards at the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, standing in the courtyard of a prisoner of war cage in Celle, Germany. Captured shortly after the camp's liberation, they were awaiting trial for war crimes committed during the Holocaust. Both were later convicted and sentenced to death. Hiroshima, October 6, 1945. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, Hiroshima was reduced to ashes by a single atomic bomb. Among the survivors was Aiko Ikemoto, pictured as an outpatient at Hiroshima Red Cross Hospital just 2 months later. Shielded by brick walls, she survived the blast but died of cancer at age 29, shortly after giving birth to a baby boy. Her photo, taken on October 6, 1945, captures not just a survivor, but a symbol of the bomb's lasting human toll. 2 Armenian women. These 2 women, armed and unflinching, were not just survivors. They were warriors. Dressed in tradition, driven by desperation, they stood against a force that sought to erase their people. This image, taken before they walked into battle, says what words cannot. When the world turned its back, Armenian women stepped forward to fight, to protect, to endure. Pacific, 1944. A Jeep roars past wreckage, its Browning M 1919 still warm with war. Behind it, the husk of a Japanese Type 95 Hago, once a Predator, now a burnt-out shell. The Jeep, light and fast, wasn't built to face tanks. But in the Pacific, survival meant adapting, striking first. Steel met steel. Speed won. A kiss, a stare, a lifetime shared. 1940s, a moment frozen. Margaret Gibb leans in for a kiss from her fiancé. Beside her, conjoined sister Mary looks on, unable to turn away, unable to leave. They were born bound together in 1912. Danced through vaudeville, smiled beneath circus lights, and bore the weight of lives never fully their own. Margaret found love once, but the altar stayed empty. Decades later, cancer came. Margaret died first. Mary followed 2 minutes later. Grasshoppers, almost a meter long? 1937. A man stands proudly with a giant grasshopper slung over his shoulder. But look closer, this isn't nature's marvel. It's photographic mischief. Created by Cole's studio, this doctored image, once passed off as truth, was likely a novelty postcard, part of a whimsical American tradition. Back then, giants roamed not through forests, but through film and imagination. Shadows betray the illusion. Biology confirms it. But in the age before Photoshop, exaggeration was an art form, and postcards like these were its canvas. Berlin, 1946. The war is over, but victory looks like rubble. Allied bombs have silenced the Reich, and Soviet boots echo through streets that barely exist. Windows gone, walls crumbling, entire blocks flattened. Amid the ruins, survivors search for firewood and hope. There's no water, no power, just silence, smoke, and scars. This is more than the fall of a regime. It's the death of a city and the birth of a new, divided world. Berlin would rise again, but first, it had to remember what had fallen. World War I, 1914 to 1918. In this grainy photo, a lone English aviator leans from the cockpit, steady hands, eyes fixed below. There's no bomb bay, no automation, just muscle, instinct, and steel resolve. He drops the bomb. As it falls, a small propeller whirs, arming the charge that will tear the earth open. This is the dawn of aerial warfare. Personal, primitive, brutal. A man, a machine, and the burden of death from above. April 1944. A railway platform in northern Italy. Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler clasp hands, two fading giants bound by war and delusion. The Reich falters. Italy lies in ruins. Soviet forces surge from the east. Allied armies prepare to strike from the west. This handshake, caught in a single frame, marks a moment of false hope amid certain collapse. Within months, Mussolini will hang from a lamppost. Hitler will die in a bunker. Their parting was not just farewell, it was the quiet shadow of defeat. 1977. Central African Republic. A picture from Bangui, 1977. Jean Bedel Bokassa stands crowned in crimson and gold, alone in grandeur. Once a French army captain, now emperor of a ruined dream. His coronation, a $20 million spectacle in one of the world's poorest nations, echoed Napoleon, but masked a reign of terror. Beneath the silk and metals, his regime crushed dissent, massacred children, and drained a nation's soul. Overthrown by his former allies, tried for murder, spared execution, Bokassa died in quiet disgrace. Yet this image endures, power without mercy, opulence carved from suffering. A smoldering city. May 1871. The Hôtel de Ville burns behind blood-slicked barricades. This is the Paris Commune, born of hunger, betrayal, and revolution. For 72 days, ordinary citizens defied the old order, demanding rights, dignity, and justice. But the dream collapsed in fire and lead. Over 10,000 lay dead. At Père Lachaise Cemetery, the last communards were lined against a wall and shot, their bodies buried beneath the stone. The Vendôme column fell. The monarchy would rise again. The Commune left no victors, only ash and the haunting echo of what might have been. Wrestling a bear. During wartime? This photo shows, in the heat of war, amid the dust and thunder of Monte Cassino, a soldier plays with a bear. Not a myth, his name was Wojtek. Orphaned in Iran, raised by Polish troops, he carried artillery shells under fire and never dropped a single one. In time, they made him a corporal. When the guns fell silent, Wojtek was exiled to a cage in Edinburgh Zoo, staring beyond the bars, waiting for voices that would never return. A soldier once, a symbol always. His statue stands in Scotland now, his nose polished by memory. New York Times, 1942. This is a photo from an age before photos in newspapers. He sits in the corner of the composing room, shirt sleeves rolled, eyes heavy from war and ink. September 1942. His name is lost, but his hands remember every line set in lead. Outside, the world burns. Stalingrad, Guadalcanal, ration lines. Inside, he builds truth from molten metal. Each letter cast by fire. Each headline is a quiet burden. No byline, no glory. Just the weight of history, laid out one silent line at a time. 1909, North Dakota. This photo holds still a man who once walked alone into the hills to find a bear, and found 3. Bear's belly, Arikara warrior, Custer's scout, stands cloaked in the pelt of the one he chose to keep. Taken in 1909, long after the battles, long after the buffalo were gone, his eyes carry ceremony, pain, and memory. He offered his own flesh to the spirits, then took a life to bind with his own. This photo is the 15th in a series, yet it carries the silence of a people whose stories were carved in scars, not ink. Glacier National Park, 1913. This photo, taken in 1913, captures a silence before erasure. Blackfeet men stand at Glacier's edge, dressed in honor, staring into a land that once knew only them. Photographer Roland Reed framed them against the vast sky, but what he captured was the weight of vanishing breath. The regalia speaks, the mountain listens, and history moves forward without asking. Today it hangs as art, but once it was simply life. Black Forest, 1936. A line of young Hitler youth stands rigid beside 5 coffins, British schoolboys dead from exposure in the Black Forest, 1936. Their uniforms are clean, their faces unreadable. For now, they are just boys. The war has not yet begun. In 5 years, they may raise rifles at each other across foreign fields. But here, beneath the pines, they mourn together. No speeches, no flags, only the stillness of shared loss. A photograph captures the moment before the world broke apart. Dark humor or harsh truth. A long dining table, polished and grim, waits under the dim light. At each setting, a plate, a chair, a rope. General Hap Arnold's gesture is cold and deliberate, justice served with ceremony. The nooses hang not from gallows, but from chandeliers, swaying like verdicts already spoken. This is Nuremberg, 1945. The accused will not feast, they will face history. And history, here, is merciless. San Diego Zoo, 1980. A Chinese delegate stands motionless before a panda enclosure, his coat stiff in the California breeze. Behind glass, the bear blinks slowly, ancient, indifferent, caged. In the stillness, decades of silence begin to thaw. No handshakes, no treaties, only a soft-eyed animal, bred in the hills of Sichuan, now performing quiet diplomacy in a foreign land. Beneath the surface, the Cold War shivers, not from bombs, but from the hush of a panda's breath. Kids in gas masks? England, 1939. Small feet in leather shoes, tiny hands clutching straps. Behind each pane of glass, a child's breath fogs a rubber mask meant for war. Their laughter was muffled. Their world is reshaped by sirens and the shriek of coming shadows. These are not soldiers. These are schoolchildren lined up in playgrounds, dressed for the apocalypse. The gas masks gave them a name, Mickey Mouse masks, but no cartoon ever walked them home when the sky began to fall. Kimberly, South Africa, 1954. One by one, the miners passed beneath the cold eye of the machine, their bodies silhouetted in bones and shadows. De Beers demands proof, no diamonds in pockets, no secrets in flesh. Every shift ends, not with rest, but radiation. Day after day, X-rayed before they can leave the depths. They mine the earth for wealth they will never hold, and in the glow of the scanner, they trade health for suspicion, until even their lungs begin to shine. November 16th, 1942. This photo shows the French battleship Jean Bart, scarred and motionless in the waters off Casablanca. November 16th, 1942. Her hull is torn open by American shells, her pride buried beneath twisted steel. She had fired in the name of Vichy France, once an ally, now an uncertain foe. The damage speaks without words, of a world torn in half, of loyalties tested by occupation, of power stripped down to ruin. Jean Bart did not sink, but something else did, in that moment, under that sky, in that war. 1986. A child is left behind in a radioactive village. This photo shows a lone Chernobyl liquidator in 1986, clad in protective gear, pushing a small pram through the ruins of a deserted village. The story attached claims an infant was found and abandoned, but that detail remains unverified. Still, the image is haunting. In a place silenced by radiation, where time stopped mid-meal and toys lay untouched, the figure moves forward with solemn duty. Whether child or equipment, the stroller becomes a symbol of innocence lost, of a world poisoned, of men walking into hell with no hope of return, only the burden of what was left behind. Creepy or touching? His body lies still beneath the morgue's overhead light. Around him, gloved hands move with quiet precision. It is July 1934, and America's most hunted man, John Dillinger, is being immortalized not in triumph, but in plaster. A death mask cast while the bullet hole under his right eye still bleeds memory. No courtroom, no last words. Just this, one final impression of a face that once laughed at the law. 1956. Winners of the Miss Correct Posture contest pose proudly. This photo, taken in May 1956, captures more than a beauty contest. It captures a profession's quiet plea for legitimacy. Lois Conway, just 18, stands crowned as Miss Correct Posture, flanked by her runners-up. Each girl balances precisely on two scales, showing perfect weight distribution and supposedly perfect health. Behind them, chiropractors look on not just as judges, but as advocates. In a world skeptical of their science, this image was meant to say, "Trust us, we know how to straighten things out." This photo captures Ella Harper, known on 19th century circus posters as the Camel Girl. Her knees bent backward due to a rare condition, congenital genu recurvatum, which made walking on all fours more natural than upright. She was exhibited for profit in traveling sideshows beginning at age 12, paraded alongside real camels for the crowd's gaze. But Ella was not a spectacle. She was a child in a world that saw her as a curiosity. In 1886, after earning a remarkable salary, she stepped off the stage. "I intend to quit the show business and go to school," she once said. And she did. Eiffel Tower, 1888. This photo freezes a moment of quiet daring. Workers suspended high above the streets of Paris in 1888, their silhouettes etched against an open sky. Each man, balanced on iron beams and temporary scaffolding, was helping to build what would become the Eiffel Tower, then a bold experiment in modern engineering, now a global icon. There were no safety harnesses, no nets, just iron, grit, and trust. Their names are forgotten, but their labor stands immortal. As tourists admire the tower today, few remember the quiet courage that forged it. One rivet, one step, one steel bone at a time. Ellis Island, 1910s. Their ship groans to a halt, and time seems to stop. Ragged clothes cling to weary bodies. Children are lifted for a better view. There, through the mist, she stands, the Statue of Liberty, hand raised in silent promise. For some, it was salvation. For others, only inspection, interrogation, and rejection. Ellis Island waited like a gatekeeper, its halls echoing with foreign names, soon shortened, misheard, or erased. This moment, captured in 1,000 memories, was not just arrival, but a crossing between who they were and who they might be, if the new world would let them. 120 miles per hour. In this photo, the Schienen Zeppelin hurtles down the tracks between Berlin and Hamburg, June 1931. A blur of metal and motion, its rear propeller slicing the air, it became the fastest rail vehicle of its time, hitting 143 miles per hour. Inside, passengers sat in quiet awe as the landscape vanished around them. But the future promised in this photo never arrived. Deemed unsafe, the train was scrapped in 1939, its sleek body torn apart, its aluminum repurposed for war. A fleeting glimpse of innovation, now frozen in this image, lost to the shadows of history. In this photo, Buzz Aldrin floats alone above Earth, 1966, Gemini 12. It is one of history's first space self-portraits, reflected in the curve of his visor, the fragile blue sphere of home, and faintly, his own face behind the glass. The silence is complete. Just the hiss of oxygen, the click of a Hasselblad shutter, and the awareness that nothing, absolutely nothing, separates him from oblivion, but a suit and will. This image, weightless and still, holds a quiet truth. Space is not just a frontier, it is a mirror. And in it, we see how small we truly are. Einstein didn't just teach science. In this rare photo from 1946, Albert Einstein stands before a crowd at Lincoln University, the first degree-granting HBCU in the United States. The genius of relativity chose this moment not to speak of physics, but of racism. The separation of the races, he said, is not a disease of colored people, it is a disease of white people. His hair wild, his eyes focused, he spoke not with equations, but with conscience. This photo captures more than a lecture. It captures a man using his voice where it mattered most, not in a lab, but in history. Midtown Manhattan, 1925. This isn't just a photo of a Model T inching toward a clown in the 1924 New York Safety Parade. It's a snapshot of a forgotten war for the soul of the street. A century ago, streets were public spaces, alive with children, vendors, pedestrians. But in the 1920s, automakers redrew the map, redefined the rules, and invented a crime: jaywalking. With propaganda posters, school trials, and media manipulation, they shamed people into silence and compliance. Hans Bellmer, 1936. A grainy photograph of a lifeless, jointed doll sprawled unnaturally across a velvet chair. In a world marching toward uniformity, Hans Bellmer chose rupture. He built his dolls in protest, limbs distorted, torsos multiplied, innocence undone. The regime saw perversion. He saw the truth, the body as battlefield, memory as torment. Exiled by fascism, consumed by obsession, Bellmer's lens captured not children, but wounds in porcelain skin. Alcaric, Jordan, a black and white photograph of a young Bedouin woman, 1907. Her eyes fix the lens. Her face is marked with fine tattoos, ritual, ancestral, defiant. Alcaric, 1907. A girl stands still, unflinching beneath the desert sun. The ink on her skin is no ornament. It is language. Each mark, a lineage. Each line, a vow. She is not what the photographer came to find. No passive subject, no curiosity. She is Bedouin, etched in earth and ritual. And as the shutter falls, she does not flinch. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on anything.